Alec Rowley to wind up the debate. Up to 5 minutes. Mr Rowley.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. As Mark Griffin said at the beginning of his speech, the Scottish Labour Party are pleased that the Government have finally listened and have appointed a dedicated housing minister. But sadly, I would have to say it's a new minister, but the same old script. And what we actually need is action to tackle Scotland's housing crisis. We have the Minister, we have Emma Harper rolling out today this misleading statement again about 16 years ago, what Labour did when they were in power. The reality is it's misleading because during that time, and we should put this to bed once and for all, between 2001 and 2007, there was 28,988 houses completed, social housing for rent in Scotland. But, no, I want to finish my point. But let me say this, is it not a tragedy that after 16 years in power, where we have a major housing crisis in this country, the best that SNP MSPs can come along here and do is try and attack a previous government from 16 to 20 years ago? What about the people that are living in damp, conditioned housing up and down Scotland right now? The people that can't get housing that are on the waiting list. Is that the best that they can expect from this SNP government? It is an utter disgrace. And what we need now is action. Scotland's housing emergency, as Shelter sets out, record numbers of children trapped in temporary accommodation. A 220% increase in children in temporary accommodation since 2014. Rising homelessness with a 40% increase in households having to live in temporary accommodation since 2014. Homeless services at emerging risk of systematic failure, according to the Scottish Housing Regulator. The Shelter Scotland, the regulator, what they say is if urgent action is not taken, we will be unable to address child poverty, we will not improve health, we will not improve education, and we will not improve employment outcomes. Social justice cannot be achieved if people do not have a home to live in which they can thrive. So I would say to the Government, let's stop the rhetoric. After 16 years, Scotland is in crisis, and what we need to do is build houses. Mercedes Villalba said earlier, we need an industrial strategy. If you today were to say that you were going to spend millions upon millions, hundreds of millions, to tackle Scotland's housing crisis, there would not be enough sparkies. There would not be enough brickies and not be enough joiners. We actually have a major skills crisis across Scotland, and we don't have the people with the skills to be able to build the houses that are there. If you're brief.
Minister, briefly.
Looking at, and I think that's a vital part of the process. But doesn't the member acknowledge their party support of Brexit exacerbates the problem?
Alec Rowley.
So yet again, what we're seeing here is we have a crisis in Scotland. We have thousands of people up and down Scotland that can't get accommodation. We have tens of thousands of children that go home at night into temporary accommodation and are expected the next day to do well in education. We have a skills crisis in Scotland where we don't have people with the skills. At the same time, we're not giving children the opportunities to be able to get those skills. When will this government accept some responsibility? When will this government actually turn round and say, we will tackle, we will put a 20 to 30 year programme in place, we will give local authorities the powers that they need over planning, we will give local authorities the powers that they need over acquiring the land that we need, and we will put the people of Scotland first by ensuring that we build houses for all of Scotland's children. That's where we need to go with us. And I'm afraid if you're unable to do that, then it's time that this government, if you're brief.
Oh, the member is just winding up, I'm afraid, Mr. Rowley.
I would say, presiding officer, I had 5 minutes, but there you go. So I would appeal to you today, let's start taking this serious. Labour will work with you. We want to tackle the housing crisis. Let's take this serious, sit down and look how we're going to do it. Stop blaming others, take responsibility and tackle Scotland's housing crisis.
Thank you very much.